Hi, I'm Kevin Church, and this month for November 2023, we have David Perry as our MuFic Songwriter of the Month. Hey, David. How you
Hey,
doing?
Kevin, how are you?
Good.
Good to be here.
Glad to have you. Got an interesting story to tell. I've been talking with you off camera a little bit. So now let's introduce you to our viewers.
Okay.
Uh, you you have been in music for how long now?
Well, I was a band director, choir director before I started down the path of doing some of my own songs. So I taught school for 34 years in West Virginia and Virginia before we moved down here to the Low Country. So
That's awesome. So like when you um, got before you were a teacher though, what were you exposed to as far as like your influences and
I grew up in West Virginia, so there was you're surrounded by country music and bluegrass music, and as a kid, that's what I heard a lot, Appalachian music and so on. But then, when I was a young teen, that's when the Beatles happened and all that changed everything, and started playing a little more rock and roll oriented stuff, and played in garage bands when I was in high school and that kind of thing. So I was influenced by several different instrumentalists and vocalists back then. John Denver. I always followed the Beatles and that kind of thing. So I was raised. A lot of people that were born in the '50s, like me, they were influenced by that initial British invasion and all that came with that. I think too.
I mean, it was a long-lasting thing that happened, and it has influenced a lot of people over the years.
Yeah,
for sure.
certainly has.
So, you were in music education for 34 years, and you played a little music on the side yourself.
Right.
Like you, tell us about your first band experience, like when you were getting started.
I can remember that we had gone to a dance after a football game, and had a friend of mine that played drums that came up and asked if I wanted to be involved. And actually, I played saxophone at the time in the high school band. So he wanted me to come in and play saxophone. So I spent about a year or so playing saxophone in that particular garage band,
Nice.
kind of watching the guitar player.
Okay.
And ended up getting a guitar. I had a guitar at the time, but and picking it up a little bit more and trying to follow what he was doing and learn some chords from him and so on. So that started me down the road of a little less saxophone, and a little more guitar, and then developing into to doing some singing and so on. So
That's great. So, I mean, by being involved with that, it just inspires and all that knowledge and all that camaraderie. I mean, it's like it inspires you to move on and play and do those things.
yeah,
It's cool.
there's nothing
It's a lot
like
of
being
fun.
surrounded by other good musicians, and you learn from them, and kind of learn how to either do a small ensemble, a small group of 3 or 4 guys or whatever, and then that gives you some encouragement to do some individual things even later on, I think.
I agree with you, man. That's really cool. So through the years, you taught, you played a little bit on the side. So when did you start songwriting? When did that kick in?
I had written things. I spent the first third of my life in West Virginia, and then probably about the next third in Virginia. And a lot of what I would write and do then had to do with my job. So it would be band music or choral music or whatever. But all along, I played guitar. I did a few gigs here and there. Dabbled a little bit in songwriting. Probably have a few songs stuck in a drawer someplace that I've written back then, but I'm almost afraid to go back and look at them, because usually the early stuff is not too thought out.
I understand.
But about 3 years ago, I sort of started down the road of trying to seriously look at how other people constructed songs. So how do you pick a melody out of the air, or lyrics out of the air, and how do you get inspired to write a particular song about a particular subject and that kind of thing. So I started looking at that aspect of it. So I've been seriously trying to sort of hone the craft of songwriting about 3 years. So
About 3 years.
yeah.
Wow. Okay. So, this 3-year stint that you've been focusing on
Right.
your talents on that. I mean, you've got so much talent from and so much influence from all the things you've been teaching, all the exposure to all these different artists, the willingness. This is just me gathering all this information.
No, you're right. So
it's pretty cool. So it's kind of like you're a sponge, and now you're letting it out. So we're wringing you out now.
Yeah.
We're letting you go. So in this 3-year stint, now you're writing, you're performing. Now you just did a record. Is that right?
Yeah, just released an album this past summer, and I at that point I'd spent 2.5 years of trying to write songs, and got to the point earlier in the year when we actually did the recording at Truphonic here in West Ashley, actually, that I had enough material that I felt like I could go in and put an album together, and ended up with 13 songs rather than your kind of traditional 10. But it's because those are 13 songs that I wanted to get into to kind of birth into the world.
Right.
And there are lots of different, there's a blues tune, there's a sort of classic rock sounding song. There's several songs that I drew from material from my youth. There's actually a section on the album that's called West Virginia Trilogy, and it's 3 songs that have to do with things that happened to me when I was living in West Virginia and was younger. There's one about my grandparents' farm out on Genoa Ridge. There's one about an episode, actually it's the one we're going to do today, I think, that happened to me a little bit later on. And then there's one about some boots that my dad gave me back in the 80s. Nice. And then once he passed, they gained a different significance every time I put them on,
right.
That kind of thing. So there's probably, you kind of put it all together, and it's what's it called, Americana, I guess. But
right.
But it's really several different styles that are in there on the album, and I got to the point where I had enough tunes that I felt like I could seriously look at going in and putting that all together.
That's wonderful. So let me ask you this: so when you were honing your craft for 3 years, working it out, and you came up with this album, you just couldn't hold it in anymore, could you?
Well,
like how did it work out? Like, was there any doubt, like you needed to not do this, or you just couldn't hold it in?
Yeah, I don't know any musician that doesn't have doubt in some form or another. It's part of who we are,
right? And
then lots of times can be a very healthy thing, because if you're doubting something, then maybe it does need a second look, possibly,
right?
I felt like I had, as with most musicians who write music, you've got something to say. Either you're telling a story,
right,
or you're taking a stand on something, or you're making a point. You've got a reason for doing that, and sometimes that music gets put out into the world, and sometimes it just stays with you.
Right.
But I felt like I had some things that I wanted to say. That's sort of kind of why a lot of us either write music or sing somebody else's music, because you want to say what somebody else has said, but you think it's a good point or a good story. So I went about it that way, trying to look at, for quite a while, how do other people approach songs, and how should I do it? I don't necessarily want to copy exactly what somebody else does,
right?
But I certainly can glean things from everybody else's ideas, So that's sort of the way I approached it. And ended up a couple of years ago going to a singer-songwriter workshop in Nashville, and that helped a lot, because I had a lot of different influences there, because all of the singers that were on the faculty of this particular workshop, they were all different too,
right?
So I was able to learn things and how to approach songwriting from them, some ways that I had never thought about doing.
That's awesome, and that's wonderful. Because now you're inspired. You're coming back strong and on fire, ready to tear it up, ready to play and write some songs. But also, like, use those pointers. And I'm happy for you that you got to do that.
Thanks.
That's really cool.
Thanks.
So, leading us to now, what are we going to sing today?
Well, I did a song at the workshop. And you got a chance to do several different tunes for different singers that were there. But this particular workshop was run by Rodney Crowell. So I got a chance to sing this song. One of the things as I put the album out, first I wanted to put out something positive. something that had a positive vibe. So like the first song is called it's a song that's about the fact that we're all in this together. It's called The Human Race, and we're all in this world together. We kind of need to help each other out. And then there's another song, the title track from the album, that's called Keep Showing Up. And it's just what it says, that you keep showing up to do lots of things. You show up for your friends. You show up to vote. You show up to volunteer, that kind of thing. So I like songs that have a point or tell a story. So the one we're going to do today is one that I played for Rodney Crowell at this particular event that I went to, and it's about something happened to me when I was a teenager, working for the State Road in back in West Virginia, but has a little twist in the chorus because the point of the song, which is called "Burying a Mule," the point of the song was that even at your worst of times, you think things are going bad for you. There are other people that you would probably not want to change places with because their situation is worse than yours. And to try to do it with a little bit of humor. And there's a couple of the songs in the album that kind of approach things in that way, that it's a little bit, you use humor, but you sort of make a point at the same time.
Right.
But I played the song for Rodney, and he liked it. And as a matter of fact, he even suggested the final line. And I kept that line in exactly the way he suggested it. I'm pretty sure that's not a co-write, however, just with him suggesting the last line. But
right.
But that's the one I think we're gonna do today, and to try to keep things kind of light and hopefully make a point with a little bit of humor attached to it.
That's really cool, man. I can't wait to play on it. It's gonna be so much fun. I wouldn't typically in the video, but I want you to tell our viewers where you just came back from, what you just did.
Oh,
we talked about, you
right.
mentioned West Virginia a lot. Right. So here you are, 3 years,
right? Been
working on your craft, and now what's going on?
Well, there's a fairly for the area, a fairly large music and fall festival that goes on in my hometown in West Virginia. I was kind of honored to be able to go back and do a show there. And I had a lot of people that showed up. I've got a lot of former students in the area. I've got a lot of friends where, we knew each other either through church or through other teachers that I'd worked with and so on. And a whole lot of them showed up to listen to my music, and I appreciated that. But it was a fall festival back in my hometown in Wayne, West Virginia.
That's awesome.
And it was great. It was gratifying to just get a chance to play in front of them, but just to get a chance. Before everything started, there were so many people coming around and wanted to see me. I'm going I got to think about what's going on here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But it was really wonderful to get a chance to do that in my hometown.
Man, music's been good to you.
It has.
That's awesome. Well, we're glad to have you here.
It's great being here. This YouTube channel that puts out all of this about the low country musicians and singer-songwriters, it's a good thing because lots of times you're introduced to someone that you didn't know.
I agree. Well, thank you so much for being here, David.
Certainly.
It's so good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Thank you. David Perry, everybody.
1, 2, 3, 4. Well, I was working for the State Road back in '73, cutting down the right-of-way so all the cars could see. Headed up Route 52, but little did we know the day just wasn't gonna go the way we thought it'd go. Well, we were halfway up to Cabway when the bus began to swerve. A mule lay dead in the middle of the road, right around the curve. He tried to cross the highway in front of a pickup truck. The truck, he made it out okay, but the mule was out of luck. Oh, you think you're getting nothing done and you're just wasting time, while other folks are having fun. Your life's an uphill climb. You think you're gonna end the day just feeling like a fool. Well, at least you didn't spend the day burying a mule. We had to drag his muley body down into a field and dig a hole that's pretty deep so he could be concealed. Well, we thought we dug it deep enough, but one thing we didn't know. On that humid summer day, Mr. Mule began to grow. Oh, you think you're getting nothing done, and you're just wasting time, while other folks are having fun. Your life's an uphill climb. You think you're gonna end the day just feeling like a fool. Well, at least you didn't spend the day burying a mule. We started digging hard and fast to get his tomb just right. Finally finished up our task as day turned into night. Climbed the hill back to the bus, our boss was waiting there. Mr. Mule was laid to rest, we even said a prayer, oh yeah. Well, you think you're gonna end the day just feeling like a fool. Well, at least you didn't spend the day burying a mule. Well, if you're ever down Wayne County way, yeah, you can stop and stare. Tourists come from miles around to see what's planted there. The prayer we prayed that fateful day, as strange as it may sound, we prayed no one would notice those 4 hooves above the ground. Oh, you think you're getting nothing done, and you're just wasting time, while other folks are having fun. Your life's an uphill climb. You think you're gonna end the day just feeling like a fool. Well, at least you didn't spend the day burying a mule. No, at least you didn't spend the day burying a dead gum mule. All right. Good job.
I think we should do it again. I always do. He always doesn't.
No, that was great.
MuFic sets you free.